Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Simmons, 8th grade algebra teacher, and I want to create this YouTube video for parents and students that are trying to figure out project number 2. I sent a parent letter home, but in case you didn't get it, here's kind of the gist of it. Just understand this, that these are test grades. It has to be either an in-class presentation or YouTube video, or any kind of video. You just have to upload it to either YouTube, Dropbox, or some URL. Apple can send it straight to my email. Android seems to come through with no sound, or the video is messed up, so you need to upload it to some other kind of server. So with this information, I hope it helps you to understand exactly what is expected. Remember that students can score over 100 points. I cap it at 120. I've had students score like in the 180 percentile, way up there, but I cap it at 120%. With that said, let's move on. I did a geometry symbol search, or list. This is one of the first ones that I come up with, so I'm going to use this little list right here in doing this video, kind of teach you some things and go over the rubric here. You have to teach 6 different symbols, and you can double dip some of these symbols that are given here with the geometry sentences. That I didn't put in here, but you can teach a sentence, a geometric sentence, using some of these symbols, and it'll count toward the 6 symbols. The thing of it is that 2 sentences, geometric sentences, have to be taught and explained. So 1 point will be given for each additional geometry symbol that is taught to connect a rule of congruency. The congruency symbols, they have to be separate from these 6, and that's why you have 6 symbols, and they can double dip here for the 2 sentences that you have to teach, plus, so that puts you up to 8, plus these 2 for congruency symbols, and that puts you up to 10. So whatever they score on the rubric, you divide it by 10, multiply by 100. That's the score, plus any extra credit points that they may have earned. Hint, basically, I ask parents to get involved. You can read from a cheat sheet, but things have to be taught. So if I give you any of these examples in the appendix or on a video or whatever, you cannot use my pictures. The students have to create their own. So they get to be creative with that. So appendix A, here's all the different symbols that you might see on pictures. Here's the geometric sentences, what they look like and how they would have to be taught. Also, geometric congruency rules, that goes with like tick marks, right angles, when transversals intersect parallel lines, those kind of things. Please understand, this project is due by May 11th, and you should probably have it turned in by the 9th, so that there'll be time to make corrections and resubmit. Remember, if it's not turned in by the due date, it's a 0, and if you don't resubmit by the due date, it's the last score that you got is what you get. So the earlier you can get this completed, the better. With that said, understand that you can use any of these symbols here in your geometric sentences, and they double dip with the pictures also, okay? The congruency symbols have to be taught on their own. They're 2 separate symbols, okay? I'll give an example here on appendix A with symbols. So I could teach that this symbol right here, let me change to blue so we can identify it's a different color. So this symbol right here is a right angle symbol, and it means that that angle is a 90-degree symbol. You could also teach it where maybe that you had another point here, and maybe this was point R. And so, no, I already have a point R. And it's okay to make mistakes. Understand, it's okay to make mistakes in these videos. I'm good with that. Just make sure you make the correction. So maybe W here. So if you have this line is parallel to this line, so you could even write it out. And this is a symbol for a line, Do you see how it has the arrows on the end? Those symbols mean a line that it's an infinite line. So you could teach this equals an infinite line when you have those symbols on there. That's what it means. And if you have line, infinite line UW, and it is perpendicular to line segment, this little bar means line segment UT. So I'm kind of double dipping. So I taught infinite line, I taught perpendicular symbol, I taught right angle symbol, and I also taught line segment. Line segment is a line that starts and stops at specific points. So it starts at point U and it ends at point T. So it's really easy to do this kind of work. You might even come over here and you have TW. Oops, I kind of messed up on that line. If I have this is a ray. And so I could teach ray because it starts at point T, that's a starting point, and it goes through W forever. And so this is the infinite symbol, starting at T, infinitely going through W. And so that's a ray. So there's many different things that you have, different options, using that list of symbols that I gave you on the previous page here. Angles, lines, line segment, rays, arcs. You could use circles, half circles, all that kind of stuff. Parallel, congruent, similarity, triangle. And so you get to create a sentence such as I did here and teach the different symbols, but you also need to have a picture of some kind that you're teaching symbols from. And so the two things, remember, you have to have 6 symbols that are taught. They can double dip from the sentences and the picture, but the things that have to be taught separately, and I'm going to turn this to red, you have to have 2. And so you could teach these marks right here that are in red. Those are congruency marks. They're called tick marks. And those symbols mean that this line segment RS is congruent to line segment UT. So they're equal. Also, these arcs right here, so this arc and this arc of the same amount, those angles are congruent. So this means congruent angles. The 2 arcs means that those are congruent. I could even throw in a circle here. Give me just a sec. Let me grab a circle. Wrong one. Let me grab this. So if I have a circle here and then I have some points, like here's a point, here's a point, here's a point, and if it's A, B, and C, I could have tick marks here too. So these tick marks says that arc AB is congruent to arc BC. Once again, it's pretty simple to teach these things. You could have parallel lines. So these symbols here mean parallel lines. Once again, the arcs, those angles are congruent. Here, line segments, angles are congruent. You could teach infinite line, ray, and here's some examples of some sentences. This says line segment GF, so point G to point F, is congruent. This is the symbol for congruency, is congruent to line segment starting at G to E, so from G to E. So this line segment is congruent to this line segment. Angle FED is congruent to angle EFC, so that's these 2 angles here, and it gives you the starting point, middle point, and third point, the final point. So FED goes from F to E to D, and EFC goes from E to F to C, so it's this angle. They get to be creative in creating these sentences. There's a multitude of symbols that they can use. They just have to teach them accurately. That's the only requirement that I have.